If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, broadcasting live every Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. Central from Panama City Beach, Florida, home of the world's most beautiful beaches. I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining me on my weekly broadcast. Every week, I'll feature some of the best instructors, coaches, authors, and entrepreneurs in the golf business today. I begin with a great discussion on Coach's Corner, followed by an insightful interview with my special guest. So let's get started by introducing tonight's Coach's Corner panel. All right, thank you everybody for joining me tonight here on Golf Talk Live. I'm really looking forward to tonight's discussion. We're going to, as I said in a moment here, we're going to start off with the Coach's Corner panel, and then a little bit later on I'm going to be joined by a couple of great gentlemen actually from the NY Sports Science Lab up in New York. Dr. Rashi Shalawala and Paul Searles are going to be joining me a little bit later on the broadcast. Just to remind everybody, of course, we are live every Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on the blogtalkradio.com network. And at the end of the broadcast tonight, as you probably have noticed if you've been tuning in this year again, I've got some out credits, if you will, and it will give you some other great ways, in addition to this network, that you can tune into the broadcast. So make sure you stick around to the end of the broadcast for that. All right, I've got a quick announcement to make. Again, this season, Coach's Corner is going to be sponsored by golfswing.com. And I'm just going to read out something very quickly, and then we'll introduce the panel tonight and then get into our discussion for the evening. Golfswing.com, again, is sponsoring the Coach's Corner panel segment again this season here on Golf Talk Live. Golfswing.com, with its cutting-edge technology, have teamed up alongside some of the best golf instructors, coaches, and swing gurus in the business. Together, they have created one of the best video teaching and training online platforms in golf. So if you're ready to break 100, 90, 80, or even 70, then join their online video academy and learn from some of the best. And a little bit later on in the broadcast, I'll play a short clip that you can get a little bit more information as to where to go and how to join their great online video academy. But let's get the Coach's Corner panel ready here to go. Let me just introduce the gang, and we'll get into tonight's discussion. First up, of course, back again this season is Clint Wright. He's a 30-year member of the PGA, also a partner at TGM Golf, and a big proponent of the R3 approach. And in my opinion, one of the best covering the short game today. Plus, he's among one of my favorite guests and panelists here on the Coach's Corner. Also joining tonight is another good friend, Chuck Evans. He's the owner of Chuck Evans Golf. He's also a Golf Magazine Top 100 teacher and a Golf Digest Top Teacher in America. Also a Top 50 Growth of the Game teacher. And he's the Director of Instruction at Apache Creek Golf Club in Apache Junction in Arizona. Rounding out the panel, of course, coming back is Dr. Allison Kurt. She is a PGA, LPGA Master Professional, one of two women ever to achieve the highest designation earned by an instructor. Dr. Kurt has over 30 years of golf competition background, has recently played in 5 LPGA Tour majors and qualified for her 6th to be held in June of this season. We'll tell a little bit about that a little bit later on in the broadcast. She's also the owner of Allison Kurt Golf out in Los Angeles, California, and she's earned countless teaching awards such as the 2018 Southern California PGA Club Fitter of the Year, 4-time LPGA Western Section Teacher of the Year, and the 2016 Southern California PGA Teacher of the Year, just to name a few. Dr. Kurt is a clinical sport psychotherapist utilizing EMDR to help athletes. It serves as the LPGA Teaching and Club Professional National Vice President. So, guys, welcome to Coach's Corner panel.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
I appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to, as I was mentioning to you guys off air, we're going to talk about some of the things that are changing in the golf industry. And last season, I talked a little bit about some of the stats of golfers coming in and sort of the dynamics, if you will, of what area, what age groups, and things like that, based on some studies that I observed. And but I want to talk about more from a different aspect of the industry. So I'm going to read just a little bit, and Clint, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with you first. But I want to read a little bit from an article that I came across recently that was featured in Golf Week magazine on their online version. And I'm going to read a little bit, and then I've got some questions for each of you. So the article sort of starts off, picture an upside-down funnel, says Club Corp CEO David Pillsbury. And, of course, he's speaking metaphorically. At the top of the funnel, the narrowest part are avid golfers, the backbone, of course, of the private club business. At the bottom, the widest part are social members who may or may not have ever played golf. So the avid golfers always have been the most coveted customers because they play the most golf and spend the most money. But here's the rub, as he puts it, their numbers are dwindling. You've got all the same clubs chasing a shrinking audience, which is not a good formula, of course. There aren't enough people to support the narrow end of the funnel. I'm going to read a little bit more later on, but Clint, I want to ask you something. Based on what he's saying here, and we'll support it a little bit later on, as I said, with some of the other discussion, but there's obviously been a decline. You know this as well, being out in the Carolinas. You've seen a lot of club closures. And so I guess my question is it time, do you think, for the traditional golf club, and it doesn't necessarily have to be private, it could be semi-private or it could be public, are they going to have to start changing their business model? And if so, what do you recommend some of the changes be?
Well, they're already changing. And to clarify a couple of things, there's no such thing as semi-private. It doesn't exist.
Right.
You're either private or public. I mean, we could just as easily call it semi-public. Okay,
right.
So that was an old term that came out of a fact when some of the private clubs were beginning to look for money. They didn't want to give that private time, so they would say, well, we're semi-private, we're private 4 days a week, and then we allow outside play 3 days a week. Well, then that morphed into 7 days a week. If you had money, you could come play. And so what we're seeing, I got back into club management for a while because a friend was having some difficulty with a course. And we have definitely changed our business model from the old style golf shop, snack bar, restaurant. We now have an activity center. So behind the counter where we sell golf balls, golf clubs, stuff, we also have beer taps and hot dog. So it's an activity area where the younger golfers coming in. And it's a center, like I said, a center of activity. Everything happens here. So they're not having to go hunt the place to sit and have a beer after they play. It's all right there together. And, we're really what we saw here was a club that was historically public, tried to go private. It didn't work very well, and we're back public again. And so from our viewpoint, as far as a business plan, we're not really focused on growing a membership.
Right.
Because you see that the younger generation, the 40 and under, they never remember a time where there wasn't good public golf. Now, I remember when, that the only good golf was at the private club, but it's not that way anymore. So there's no built-in concept of needing to join to play the best club in town. They've come through a time frame in learning to play where they played multiple golf courses in the marketplace, so they don't want to be tied down to a factor of I got to spend X amount of money at this particular place for the next 30 days or I'll lose it. So what we've done is that we've instituted plans that we're seeing all over the country. I think we call it a player's card. So they can pre-buy X number of rounds. That gives them membership value, but ultimate flexibility. They can use it anytime they want to. So I think he's absolutely correct. You understand that the universe of people that he's talking about, both there's nobody joining that universe of golfers, and unfortunately reaching an age where many of them are not here anymore. that generation is, without being overly morbid, they're just not playing golf any longer. They've aged out, and the replacement golfer does not see the value in what we need them to replace if we want to stay traditional and try private clubs. So we've changed and shifted our focus towards activity. So we want to try to create activities that are going to attract the mass public, where years ago when I was in the private club business, we created activities for the small membership universe. So instead of having member guest, we're having two-man captain choices. You don't need to be a member to play. We don't even have a member guest at our club anymore because we don't want to limit it to the small universe of members. We want to reach out to everybody. And so I think he's absolutely correct. I think from our standpoint, we understand that the future of our game is in public golf, in the masses anyway. I think there's always going to be a place for the private club, but generally what's going to keep our business and game going is public golf, and we'll drive public golf through activity, not necessarily membership.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Yeah, that's some great points, Clint, and you're exactly right. Allison, I want to go to you on this here and sort of along this same theme, but I just want to add something else. I want to read a little bit more here and then get your thoughts from a slightly different perspective. As I mentioned, again, off air in our comment, the PGA West in La Quinta, California has been billed as the western home of golf in America, but even in recent years, they've even, some of their staff have seen members switching from full golf memberships down to more of a sports membership with still some playing privileges. So what they're starting to see now, and what's interesting about this, and I'm not going to read the whole portion of the article, but what's interesting about this, their director of marketing and membership sales, the main reason they're losing their golf members wasn't because of health or fitness, it was because of grandkids. So it's a generational shift, if you will. What are you starting to see happen in your line of sight, if you will, in your area of both teaching and, being involved with some of the courses out in California, particularly in LA? What are you starting to see happening there? Do you concur with a lot of what Clint has said? And also what I've just read here is that you're seeing a shift in how people are approaching golf clubs, if you will, or golf courses. They're looking for more things to do than just going out there and playing a round of golf. What are your thoughts on some of the changes?
It definitely has evolved over the year, and I have an interesting take on this because I grew up in country club life, if you will, where I had access to swimming and tennis and junior golf, and it was a very family-oriented activity. And what I'm seeing out, particularly in LA, is just because of the cost of land, those big facilities are sort of the cream of the crop, where it's the higher SES families that are members at those sort of facilities, but it's the golf clubs where there's a lot of activity, where it's just a golf course and a practice facility. And so the golf members that are coming out are looking for, I think with their time constraints, shorter bits of time that they're allowed to participate and maximize their family potential. But out here, junior golf is roaring. We've got great junior programs, junior leagues, and there's a lot of kids that are at the golf courses. But to the other point, I feel that there's also kind of a switch in the lifestyle where a little bit of the culture has changed and it's a bit more lax. So it's not as, I guess, that old paradigm of being like a stingy, stuck-up country club. Dress codes are relaxed. The types of games that are being played on the golf course are relaxed. Oftentimes there might be foot golf that comes in on Friday evenings, and the golf course is now transformed into a soccer type field. And even the modes of transportation are changing, where golf carts are now turning into surfboards, and people are having fun in a different way on the golf course, and it's really attacking all generations. However, I think that that's not appealing to some of the more traditionalists, and some of those individuals are sticking to the old paradigm of a country club lifestyle. I do think that the members that are downgrading their membership from full golf, they're looking to do activities with their family and making golf fun. And that may be only playing a couple of holes, but making it glow ball rather than golf on a Sunday afternoon, or playing foot golf and riding a surfboard, which is also your golf cart. So California is kind of doing it a little bit different way than the East Coast, but it's certainly attracting families, younger people to the game, and including multi-span generations.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Pardon me. I think, Chuck, one of the things that I've seen in golf, and it doesn't matter really whether it's East or West Coast, you're seeing a sort of changing of the guard, I guess, for lack of better words. You're seeing, just as Allison had just sort of mentioned, the traditional golfer, there's certainly, still those opportunities to have that traditional feel, but as the family units now are gathering and looking for things to do as a family unit, that sort of traditional model doesn't necessarily fit every family's lifestyle. And I want to read something very quickly, and then I want to get your thoughts as well. Now the sports complex gives a place where families can congregate. There are two natural areas that traditionally have been gathering on the golf course, and that's the bar and the range. More formal dining rooms are trending down, with most clubhouse renovations centering on better bar experience. So people want more TVs, more bars, more casual, more views, more indoor-outdoor seating. So they want that what typically hasn't been your traditional country club feeling. It's more of, there's other activities, as Allison and Clint talked about. There's other things going on other than just golf. Is this a trend, or is this really a new way that golf clubs are going to have to sort of morph into, regardless of where they are, if they want to stay competitive and if they want to stay open? Chuck, and that's for you.
Well, yeah, no, I don't think it's a trend. I think it's the way it's going to have to go, because golf for so long has been labeled as an elitist sport, and it doesn't matter if you're playing golf at the local cow pasture or at a club that costs you $500,000 a year. It's still labeled as an elitist sport. You see a lot of the I'm going to say from the 35 to 50 age group, at least where I've been in the last few years, are the ones that have stopped coming out, and it's the 55 and older coming out, and the juniors. So when juniors come out, they want to have fun. I mean, somebody was talking the other day about, well, what do you do with junior golfers? Do you put the hammer down and make them work hard on their games when they're just starting out, or do you let them have fun? And I think it can work both ways depending on that player. But by and large, if you make it fun for the kids, they'll want to come back. If you do the drill sergeant thing on them, then they don't want to come back. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I know that there are a lot of clubs that are trying to integrate more of the social activity, especially with non-members, bringing people in from the outside, because they want to have a bigger group to mingle with, because they're tired of seeing the same old people all the time. So they're opening their doors and let some fresh blood come in.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. That's a great way to put it. And it goes back to really what the CEO of Club Corp said, as I mentioned earlier on. The pool of avid golfers, if you will, is definitely dwindling, and now you're seeing more of an entry level or social membership or even a sports membership. And obviously they want to eventually convert that into a more lucrative golf membership. But I think in order to stay competitive, and I think also to stay current and relative, as Allison, as you had mentioned, they're going to have to offer more activities. I mean, yes, it's a golf course, but not everybody plays golf, and that's something that I think that the facilities are going to have to recognize, that they need to have other activities. One of the other things that you're seeing now, and obviously it's starting with some of the larger clubs first, but you're seeing them. One of the things that David Pilbury, the CEO of Club Corp, talked about a little bit later on in the article was the fact that getting into more fitness, because a lot of people that may belong to a golf course or golf club also have a gym membership somewhere else, and they're trying to get those people, instead of going somewhere else to work out, coming to the golf course and working out. So a lot of them are expanding and adding a fitness facility within the complex in order to have sort of a one-stop shop. So Clint, what do you see that happening in your neck of the woods as well? Are you starting to notice that, not necessarily at the club that you're with, but are you starting to see that trend happening as well?
Yeah, just an example. I had a gentleman come over and started discussing a club that's in a nearby town, and he was asking about memberships and things of nature. He was on their golf committee, and he said, look, they had just went through this major capital expenditure to upgrade their pool and to upgrade their fitness centers, and it just didn't go anywhere. It just didn't not accomplish what they wanted to have happen. And I said it was real simple. I mean, the person that they're trying to attract lives in a neighborhood where mom and the kids can walk to the pool, because the amenity they're building in subdivisions now are pools. Right. Every new subdivision around here has got their own homeowner's pool, and they can go to Gold's Gym 24/7 for $10 a month.
Yeah.
So they don't see any value. I don't see here. There's obviously there's exceptions to everything I'm about to say, but in their particular case, either they didn't promote it or market it correctly, but the people did get it in front of didn't see any value in those amenities. But to back up a little bit, I still think that there's a seriously good position for a golf club. And that's kind of what I see focusing in our area is that we have a 9-hole 5:30 dogfight on Tuesday. Play 9 holes, come in and drink beer and eat wings, and that's what and we see a much younger person coming to do that than we see playing on a regular. That's what they want to do. It's a social. It's really not the golf. They come after work, they socialize, and we're going to have a 9-hole golf game breakout. It's kind of similar to going to a hockey game. You go to see the fights, and then a hockey game breaks out. So they come to socialize and then play a little golf if it's part of the activity. And there's no question that golf in those areas is probably a 50% portion of the reason they're there. The socialization and the winding down after a long day at work is probably the other half of it. So it works very well together for the younger group of people that come play the courses where we're at here. Now, we also have a very strong university presence here. So, right. The college kids are playing in the afternoon, things of that nature. But I don't know. I think it's particularly for a club that's in the mid-range type golf courses and golf clubs. I mean, in order to upgrade their facilities of that nature, that is a huge capital expenditure and a huge risk on their part. I'm kind of old school. I think that you have to protect your asset, and that's the golf course, the clubhouse, the activities there. So maybe I'm stuck in old school, but I want to have the best golf course in town. And then my activity around that. And I just don't see where it makes, maybe in certain areas it does, where it makes much sense to pull money out of a capital expenditure category to do that than versus maybe improve your golf course. And I think it also comes down to the ownership of your facility. If the corporate ownership thinks that's a wise spending of their capital money, then great. Like in my case, I have two owners,
Right.
and that capital expenditure comes out of their pocket. So I have to then justify how I'm going to get their money back. Plus, it adds to the revenue stream. And here, I think that's a pretty tough case to make. But possibly in other areas, it may be not quite as hard to make. But here, it's pretty tough. So we focus on the best golf course we can have, utilizing that asset to create activity around it, and and we're shifting into more of an activity, obviously this more, conducive to the younger golfer and, the 25 to 35. And that means you got to have Blue Moon, not Budweiser.
Right.
You just have to make your changes in order to make sure that they have the proper socialization to go along with your golf club.
Yeah, you obviously have to play to your market, and again, as you
Sure.
mentioned, you've got a big university crowd there, so obviously you've got a big pool to pull from. Allison, I want to throw this question to you. We've talked a little bit about some of the changes the facility has made, but what about the golf professional in general? Are we also moving away from traditional lessons? That doesn't mean that we don't offer them, but are we changing that formula as well and offering other products, if you will, in the repertoire of the golf professional?
Wow, that's a good one. I think that as PGA and LPGA professionals, we're kind of still doing the same thing. I can really only speak for instruction, and I am seeing some coaches evolve their programming to include the lifestyles that are becoming prevalent at the golf course. So coaching programs, less one-on-one lessons, more drop-ins, less registration, casual, after-work type feel. I think golf professionals that are at the club environment are probably engaging in different type of activities events than they are used to. So instead of just putting together a tournament and scorecards, they're maybe having to bundle other activities with couples events or member guests besides just the typical horse race and have some food and beverage. I think it's really taxing golf professionals to be more creative as their companies are trying to accommodate the populations that they're serving. The golf professional either needs to be flexible and move with it, or they might be irrelevant at their club. Some of the areas in Los Angeles are still very traditional, and those jobs often come up where you have your traditional golf professional role, but some of the golf clubs or some of the facilities where you can take lessons, such as Urban Golf Academy and the indoor simulation facilities, they're not looking for a traditional golf professional. They're looking for a hip person who's educated in the game of golf, who can attract a particular clientele and be more like in the hospitality type aspects than just teaching lessons or just being in the golf pro world. One of the cool things that's happening in LA is our plans to bring in a Top Golf. And we know that across the country, anywhere that a Top Golf goes up, it's been pretty successful. And with Los Angeles getting one, I think it might change the vibe of what golf is and how it can be fun and it can be cool. And the pros that are hired at Top Golf are being asked to get out of their traditional golf professional role because they're serving a different type of population.
Yeah, and that's really an excellent point. And Chuck, I want to add something to your comments here, and I want to ask a specific question for you about golf communities in general. But I just want to add something real quick, Allison, about that. You're exactly right. With organizations like Top Golf, of course, we're getting away from what we all perceive as traditional golf. It's more of a social atmosphere, and it's a more relaxed, go out, have fun, have a great social gathering with friends, and we'll throw a little golf, in the mix as well. And obviously, they're hoping at some point down the road that people will take an interest that maybe traditionally didn't take an interest in the game, but they're obviously realistic to know that the fact that they're not necessarily going to convert every one of those individuals that frequent a Topgolf into golfers out on the golf course. Certainly some are going to do that, and the numbers show that there are that, but it's, again, a small percentage. So I guess really what the industry is doing, this is my point of tonight's discussion, is having to make changes to what we perceive the traditional golf business model, if you will. And Chuck, this brings me to a question I want to ask you about sort of these golf communities. We see them all through Florida. We see them through Arizona and that as well, and literally all around the country. Is that model going to have to change? We saw a lot of them close down, and I want to just preface this a little bit because I want to be specific. One of the things, and I had some guests on a few weeks back that are actually trying to help some of these communities stay open, because what's ultimately happened is they're getting individuals that are not utilizing the facility, and the golf courses just can't support it. But my concern is, or my question with respect to the golfing communities, and I'm talking about, again, like some of the ones you see in southern Florida and that, where, up pops a golf course and everybody's, lining the fairways, their homes. The problem that I see with that model in today's market is because there are less and less people playing golf, it relies on the community to prop that course up. So if you've got less people, playing golf in those communities, even though the homeowner is on the hook a little bit, if you will, for lack of better words, is that going to deter people, do you think, from moving into a community like that if they're not interested in golf because they know that they're going to be somehow paying to support that golf course? What are your thoughts on that, and does that model have to change as well?
Well, I think it does, and I know several golf course communities where only 25% of the homeowners or people that live there actually play golf. The rest of them buy there because normally it's peace and quiet on a golf course. So, they're doing one or two things. They're buying it for the peace and quiet, or they're buying it because they actually play golf. In many cases, it's not because they actually play golf. But the hard part is if we want to bring the game more to the younger folk, the difficulty is with the players that are already out and the ownership that's already out. I mean, I'd love it if we had speakers out here on the driving range and we had a bev card out there, but that's never going to happen, because you've got two entities, the players, and then you've got the ownership, and it's not time yet it is time, but it's not time for them yet to see what's in front of them and make those changes. So until they make those changes, we're still looking at the downturn as far as number of rounds and everything else, pro shop sales. I mean, it's memberships, all of it.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. We're seeing a lot of changes, and I think one of the other things too, Allison, I'm going to come back to you real quick here, and then Clint. You touched on this with Topgolf, but in general, we're seeing technology is really starting to drive, and it has been driving the industry, not just obviously in instruction. I mean, that has been paramount in making a lot of changes in the teaching professionals' repertoire, if you will. But things like Topgolf and Top Tracer technology and other areas such as that, golfing lounges, if you will, we're seeing more and more indoor or concept indoor facilities. That's really starting to drive the market in a different direction as well. Do you see there sort of being a two or three pronged approach, if you will, to golf? In other words, you're still going to have some of your traditional golfers, but now you're going to have a new genre, if you will, I guess is the best way to put it. Do you see sort of new areas of golf, expanding foot golf and things like that, and some of those people may not necessarily ever get into traditional golf? In other words, developing a new product, if you will, for the golfing enthusiast. Do you see that happening? Well, you're seeing it happen, but do you see that is a direction that the golf industry may end up taking a little bit more, to heart, if you will?
That's a hard one. I mean, I see it right now as being an attractive activity to get traffic to the golf course and to get a new type of customer to lock them in. But when we look at what's on the media, are we going to be seeing professional foot golf tournaments on TV? Is Golf Channel going to air other forms of golf? Or is it going to stay more traditional golf? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a sport, and I don't think the sport is going to change, but I do think that the facilities have to be flexible and go current with the times and the generation, and that may be including technology, because as technology is expanding and we know that we can do everything on our phone, we all have microcomputers. A lot of facilities are now starting to back down a little bit about cell phone usage and being allowed to use your cell phone, or the technology that's in golf carts. I think the technology is certainly going to help attract people to the game and create this fun, sort of cool feel. But I don't know if it's ever going to change, like, the true heart and spirit of the game of golf. Like, that I feel like, or I hope, is always going to stay the way it's going to stay. But the activities surrounding it to get more people to be interested or try it out, I would encourage all facilities to look at multiple ways, different approaches, three-pronged approaches to attract golfers.
If I can add something.
Sorry, go ahead, Chuck.
So when we go back and we talk about foot golf, then there was frisbee golf, and they all started with this big splash. And they're not splashing anymore. Okay, there are a few isolated places, where they do that, but that's not going to be the growth segment either. I think that the growth segment, how we can really do this, is build 9-hole courses, because they can get around faster. Father, son can go out and they can play an hour and a half, 2 hours max, and they don't have to have any par 4s or 5s. You can just build par 3s and have different tees. So if you want to make it a par 4, you use the back tee. But I think that's the fastest way I see to grow it is to quit building these ultra hard golf courses, because it's all ego driven, and build 9-hole golf courses that people can have fun and get around, and they can enjoy taking their son or daughter out after school and playing 9 holes.
Hey, Ted.
Right.
Ted, let me throw something in here, Chuck. In 1983, I bought my first golf course. It's a 9-hole executive length golf course that's a par 29. I still own it today, and it's the most successful, profitable golf course I've ever owned.
Yeah. And
exactly what you just got through describing, and for the life of me, for the longest time, I never figured out why anybody would want to play it. All right, but you're correct.
And you got less maintenance. And you got less maintenance costs too.
Well, and it's father, son, mother, daughter, beginners, all kind of different people that play it. It's quite a diversity. Right. And to come back to something you talked about a minute ago about golf communities and developments, in the very beginning of any of these golf courses that have homes around them, the golf course was never built with the essence of it being a business.
Right.
It never was. The golf course was simply built to drive the price of the real estate around it. So at the early stages, it was the developer's best interest to keep the golf course up and keep it going. So they just put money in it every year to keep it going. They really didn't care whether it made money or not. It tried to minimize the loss, but it really didn't matter if it lost a little bit of money, because it was really to drive the price of the real estate from $5 an acre to $50,000 an acre. And what's happening is a lot of these subdivisions that were built around these golf courses, or golf courses that were built inside subdivisions, they're maturing now. The developers are long gone. They've sold it off now to the second or third individual that thought it was a business. And we're sitting here wringing our hands trying to figure out how to make a business successful that was really never, ever built to be that on its own. I think we're near about as shape as we think we are in our business, because the golf courses here that originally were built as businesses are doing quite well. The ones that were built as amenity drivers are the ones that are having trouble, because you're absolutely right. There's only about of the homes around the golf course I'm at right now, there's probably maybe 10% of the people that live there play golf. So we have to come to recognize the fact that the businesses that we're seeing closing and having difficulty were never really set out to be standalone businesses. And we have to take that into account, obviously, and not kind of kick everything, throw it under the bus to think that we're going to be some kind of miracle workers out here and take these golf courses and make them profitable. It's difficult.
Right.
Yeah,
and all those golf course
go ahead,
developments, the golf course was the attraction, just like Clint said. But they didn't care about the golf course. They're there to sell home lots and sell homes.
Heck yeah.
And as soon as they sell out, they bail. They either sell the golf property or they sell the whole thing.
And for some reason now, we, the golf professionals and whatever, are supposed to be doing some miracle work to pull these things out of the fire to keep them open. And in a lot of places we are. I mean, but in many cases, I think we're doing ourselves some disservice to talk about how many golf courses are closing and think it's some kind of effect of the golfer and our game. It very well may be the majority of it is purely bad business decisions made 30 years ago.
Yeah, and if you look last year, I think it was last year, National Golf Foundation, whoever it was, the majority of golf courses, the largest percentage of golf course closures were the golf courses that were $39 and under to play golf. Yes,
it's not about the money. It really isn't about. It is about the money, obviously, but it's you can. I'll give you a prime example. We put in a under 40 membership at this club and tried it. I mean, like half price, and it didn't matter. We started doing this Players Club. I've sold more Players cards than I've got members because it gave them the flexibility of not in 30 days. It gave them the time they could use it any time. So it wasn't about how much. It was about any dollar amount that locked me into having to spend it in 30 days. Had everything to do with a reasonable value of flexibility. Yeah. And that's the direction we're going. But I think we do ourselves as golf professionals and, quote, the makers of this game, we do ourselves some disservice in thinking that it's all our fault that the golf courses are closing.
Right. Well said.
The owners.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Well, and very well may not the existing owners, the owners that built it.
Yeah.
Right. Allison, I want to read one more thing here, and then I want to get your thoughts. This is something that you alluded to earlier, and this was, again, sort of a quote from the Director of Sales and Marketing at PGA West, and basically she's stating that culturally it was getting our club to shift and saying how we can be more things to more people. It was very difficult. Obviously, everybody who works here lives and breathes golf, and to sort of go over our head pro and director of golf and say, yes, we're about golf, but it needs to be quicker, it needs to be more fun, and we need to set up different games. It can't be just competitive. And that really goes to a point, Allison, that you had mentioned earlier, is about making it more fun and not just the sort of the traditional golf, not that it can't be fun, but I think the market is being driven that they want other activities. They want to have other things, and the traditional 18 holes of golf might be fun for some, but it might not be for somebody else. What do you see happening in your neck of the woods in California? What are some of the changes that you're seeing as far as on the golf course itself? What sort of different challenges?
Some of the different changes are certainly affecting length. So having adults and newer golfers in sort of like an Operation 36 type green to tee learning style and playing style. We think about junior tees being out in the middle of the fairway, but there's a lot of newer golfers and less skilled golfers who maybe play once or twice a year that have just as much fun playing a regulation length golf course, but teeing it up from 100 to 150 yards out. and having tournaments and having fun social gatherings from those sort of distances. The desert in particular, where this club is located, a lot of those clubs are doing some great things, tag teaming other activities besides just golf. So including a bundle, if you will, like, okay, we're going to go play 3 holes of golf and then have a pickleball tournament. And pickleball is just the rage out there.
Yeah.
A lot of people are joining clubs to be pickleball players and
right.
then also, play golf in the side. And the usage of executive golf courses, par 63s, having these really nice, luxurious looking golf courses where they're all par 3s. And I think length has a huge advantage to that. In some of the competitions, I'm seeing, particularly at my club, the competitions are attracting a certain demographic of membership, the traditionals that like to compete and stroke play, but including more tag team events where you pick a partner, bring a guest, play a different format, score doesn't matter, prizes, drinks. Our pitch and sip group at my particular club, they go out and they play from any tee they feel comfortable with, don't need to keep score, and then they all have glasses that match with their alcohol, and they join socially afterwards. So the clubs out here are definitely thinking outside of the box when it comes to
right.
moving from like a traditional round of golf to attract different types of people. And I think the quote hits the nail on the head that it's not really trying to go over the director of golf or the golf department, but it's saying we need to be relevant. And in order to be relevant, we have
right.
to think a little bit differently. And I'll leave with this comment that I think is interesting. In some of the golf courses are charging by the hole rather than 9-hole rounds, 18-hole rounds. They're coming up with a system out here in California of pay by the number of holes that you play. So you get out there and you play 3 holes and you're done. You check out, you pay for 3. You decide to go play 13 holes and you're done. You pay for 13. And I think that's an interesting
right.
way to, kind of attract people, that you're not locked and loaded for $100 for 5 hours. But if you want to go out and just play a couple of holes, you pay for 3 and you're good to go and you're satisfied. So those are some of the
it's interesting that you mentioned that, Allison, because I actually had a guest a couple of years ago, a young gentleman, and name escapes me now, but he actually developed an iPhone app that did that very thing, and he started sort of a test, if you will, out in the Phoenix, Arizona area, with a couple of golf courses. And what he did is he actually went through their books, if you will, and had a look at how many of their members were actually playing the number of rounds. And one of the big things that came up that he discovered when talking with some of the members and talking with the golf course facility heads and so forth, owners, if you will, was that people were not playing, or very few were playing traditional 18-hole or even 9-hole. Some of them only had time to play 4 or 5 holes. So he actually developed an app that did that very thing that you just talked about, that you could pay by the hole. So that, in fact, he lived by one of the golf courses. So a lot of times he would just go out there and maybe only play 3 holes, and his app would allow him to pay for those 3 holes directly through the app, and the money goes again into the till of the golf course right away. So they get that instant fund without having to wait, and he didn't even actually have to go into the clubhouse. It's actually built into their system. So I can see that being a trend as well. I think it really boils down to this, guys, and then we're going to wrap up, is I think the industry has room for a little of everything. I think we can certainly have, continue to have our traditional golfers, and I think there'll be new traditional golfers developed over time. But I think the industry, not only to stay relevant within itself, but to stay relevant within the surrounding communities. There are so many other activities that are, coming out there, and I think if golf sort of stays down one constant or consistent path, it's going to become very quickly a dinosaur in the sense of games or activities. So I think it needs to force that change, and I think it'll be good in the long run. And Clint, to your point, you're exactly right. It's not the golf professional's job to bail out a lot of these golfing communities. I think that they have to understand what it is that they've got there, and quit, trying to sort of resurrect, a dying horse, because that's not really what it was put there for. It's an amenity for the community, and that's essentially what it was. And that's not to say to get rid of it, but they need to have other things as well. Great discussion tonight. Allison, I'm going to let you go first, just to let everybody know how they can reach you, but I also want to give you an opportunity. You're going to be playing in one of the majors this year. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be playing in my 6th LPGA major and qualified for KPMG PGA Women's Championship, which will be held at Hazeltine National Golf Course up in Minnesota. So I'm excited to make a return appearance to that event, and that's the 6th major in the past 7 years for me. So playing pretty well and hoping to perform my best for this year in 2019. But all the listeners, I'd love for them to follow me on Instagram. I'm always posting some new tips, whether it's golf tips or fitness tips or psychology tips. So head over to Instagram, Allison Kurt Golf, and look me up. Also have some YouTube content with the same name, and certainly follow me on Facebook, and all of those social media sites will lead you to my website for contact info, online scheduling, or if you just want to talk golf.
Perfect. Well, thank you as always, Allison, and good luck this summer. Good luck this season, actually, but good luck in June at the KPMG event. I know you'll do extremely well. I know you've been working hard. I've been watching you online with some of the different posts that you've done, and I know you're really working hard and have worked hard to get to that level. So keep it going and keep us posted on how you do. Chuck, I'm going to let you go next. How can the folks reach out to you?
Oh, they can go to the website, which is chuckevansgolf.com. Phone number and email are on there. And then all over social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, as Chuck Evans. So they can also go there. They can also go to the Ultimate Guide to Golf, which has over a library of over 200 training videos for golfers for every level of golfer. So, and then if they want to come out to Arizona, come on out. Sun's out. It's not cold. It's a good time.
You're definitely soaking up the western climate. I know when you were out here on the East Coast, we had a little rain last year, and it made you decide to head back out west. And I don't blame you. But I'm glad you're. Yeah, I know. I'm glad you're settling in at your new locale. And last but not least, my tongue's tied tonight. My good friend Clint. How can the folks reach out to you, and any final thoughts?
Easy enough, Ted. It's clintgoff@001@yahoo.com. Or, like I said, if they're here in the local northwest South Carolina area, just look me up and come by to see us. Would have lunch and have a conversation about golf, huh?
Sounds good. Well, guys, thank you very much. Great discussion tonight. And like I said, I found the article very interesting. There were a lot of, obviously there's some other things that we didn't have time to get into, but, it's interesting to see that what a lot of the, not just the teaching professionals obviously observe, but a lot of the other industry leaders in golf are starting to recognize and see that some changes are going to have to be made, and I think that there's been a lot of emphasis on why people have sort of gotten out. And Chuck, you had mentioned a moment ago about that sort of a certain area or age group from early 30s to upwards of top 50s that are sort of getting out of the game or have gotten out of the game, and that's obviously a discussion for another evening. But great topic tonight, great discussion, guys, and I appreciate always your input into the Coach's Corner panel, and I look forward to having you guys all back again next time.
Look forward to it, guys. Y'all have a nice evening.
All right,
thanks so
guys.
much. Thanks, Ted.
You're welcome. All right, good night. All right, that was Clint Wright, Chuck Evans, and Dr. Allison Kurt on the Coach's Corner panel tonight. Thanks to all of them for some great discussion. And here in just a moment, I'm going to be joined by tonight's very special guest. But in the meantime, again, golfswing.com is our sponsor of the Coach's Corner panel. And here's just a little message on how to get involved with them.
Are you finally ready to improve your golf game? Golfswing.com is changing the way golfers learn online. With the largest collection of golf training programs and drills on the planet, Golfswing.com can help you improve every part of your game. Whether you want to gain more distance, hit it closer, or just sink more putts, Golfswing.com's staff of world-class coaches can help you gain the results you need. Watch unlimited videos on any device from anywhere in the world and start playing better, scoring lower, having more fun, and saving money. Get your fix on demand at Golfswing.com.
All right. Don't forget, after the show, visit golfswing.com. Check out their great online video academy. Very, very easy to join and very, very inexpensive. And there are literally thousands of great video tips on there by some of the best golf instructors in the business. Very, very professionally done. In fact, we've had a few of them here on the Golf Talk Live. One particularly, John Decker, of course, many of you are familiar, has been a regular on the Coach's Corner panel for the last few years. He has literally done, I think, almost 200 videos now on golfswing.com. So make sure you check them out. And don't forget to tune in on Tuesday mornings here on the blogtalkradio.com network and join LPGA professional Legends Tour player Cindy Miller and I on the Women of Golf show. Airs Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the blogtalkradio.com network. We've always got some great winners. We're going to be featuring a winner from the IOA Championship on the Symetra Tour coming up this Tuesday. We don't know who it's going to be yet, obviously. That tournament's beginning, I think, today or tomorrow. And we'll be playing through the weekend, so we'll get an idea as the weekend progresses who that is going to be. But we'll have that individual on and then another great guest to follow. So make sure you check that out on Tuesday mornings as well. And as I mentioned, at the end of the broadcast tonight after my guest interview, you can hear some great additional ways that you can tune into the broadcast, some other online social media platforms that feature the shows, not only Golf Talk Live, but also the Women of Golf can also be found at those other social media platforms as well. So you can always check them out. And you can subscribe for free. There's no cost. So just go to whichever one that you choose to, whether it be CastBox, Spotify, or iTunes, and just either follow or subscribe depending on what they ask. And again, it's free, and you can get the latest and updated shows each and every week for both of them. So make sure you do that. And you can also follow me on all various forms of social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, of course, and all of that will be in the following the interview portion as well. All right, I'm going to be joined here in just a moment or two. I'm going to actually read out a little bit about both of them here. I actually had a group a couple of years back from the NY Sports Science Lab. One of them is coming back, but I had, I think, 3 or 4 of them on that night. Dr. Rushi Shalawala is going to be joining me here, as well as Paul Searles. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of them, and when they're here, then we'll just jump right into tonight's discussion. Dr. Rushi Shalawala, of course, is the Director of Sports Science Lab, and Rushi brings extensive experience in working with athletes of all ages and levels, including professional and amateur athletes. He's a clinical instructor for Columbia University and is affiliated with the Hospital for Special Surgeries and as a hip clinician. And Paul Searles is, as a strength and conditioning coach, brings a wide range of experience to the Sports Science Lab. Paul brings multiple perspectives to the lab, as he was an athlete his life, for his entire life, played college baseball for the College of New Jersey and has worked with elite athletes across the East Coast. So both of them are very specialized in their areas, and the New York Sports Science Lab is going to be, or has been, partnering with Zone Sports Academy. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and then also how the pro athletes, if you will, and can benefit in a lot of different sports, but particularly golf at the NY Sports Science Lab. So we're going to talk to both of them once they come on board. Again, don't forget to tune in every Thursday evening here on Golf Talk Live from 6 to 8 p.m. Central. And I'm glad for those of you that are tuning in live tonight. After the end of the show, of course, all of the programs are auto-recorded, so you can certainly go in and listen to the show in its entirety. If you missed part of it, you can go back to this particular network, blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live, or as I mentioned at the end of the show, in the closing credits, you will hear some other great ways, some other social media platforms that you can tune in and listen to as well. So lots of great shows. If you haven't followed very long, I appreciate it. Welcome to the family, if you will. Always have some great guys on here. And again, for some of you that are a little bit newer to the show, the Coach's Corner panel, which just ended a few moments ago, is something I started about 5 years back. The show has actually been broadcasting now. This is my 7th season here in Golf Talk Live, and about into the second season, towards the end of the second season, I believe, I started the Coach's Corner panel. And really what it was to invite some other like-minded individuals in the golf industry, various different stages and levels of degree of instruction and coaching, really to get together and talk about different things, not only how to help your game, but also things going on in the industry like we did tonight, talking about some of the changes that are going on, both good and bad. And it's been very, very successful. It's been very well received by a lot of the listeners out there. So I've kept it going now. And as I said, that component has been, I think that part is about season 5, 5th season. And overall, Golf Talk Live has been on for going on its 7th season now. So done very, very well. I'm very, very happy to have all of you tuning in each and every week, and I appreciate it tremendously. As I mentioned, I'm just waiting for Dr. Rushy and Paul to come on the show here, and we'll just hold tight for a minute as we wait for them to come on board. Some other things, too, that as the season progresses, I'm going to be tackling some other topics as well as obviously they're very, very important to golf. Some changes going on, some new developments that are happening as they come. I'm going to be updating that a little bit more. I see I've got one of them here. I don't know if it's both of them, but let me see who I've got here. Or they may be coming on together. All right. Good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live.
How's it going?
Hi, this is Rishi from Sports Science Lab.
And this is Paul.
Paul as well.
Okay, both on the same line. Okay, I wasn't sure. I thought they said that you might be calling in separate.
Yeah,
well, Rushi,
separate lines. Yeah.
That's okay. Well, Rushi and Paul, welcome very much to Golf Talk Live. Thank you for joining me this evening. I've already let the audience know a little bit about each of you, so I've already done that intro part before you came on, and so we'll get right into our discussion tonight. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right,
Sounds great.
Rushi, I know that you've been on. You were on the last time. Paul, I don't think you were on before when I had actually a group of them on from the NY Sports Science Lab. So for that benefit, what I want to do first, guys, I know you've got some very exciting news to talk about tonight, and we're going to get to that here in a little bit, but I want to kind of go back a little bit and just talk about, obviously, this is a golf program, and I know that you guys are involved with a lot of different athletes from literally a wide spectrum of sports, but I want to focus obviously on golf particularly because, again, this is a golf show. Talk about, if you can, some of Rushi, I'm going to start with you, and then, Paul, I want you to jump in as well. Some of the different services, if you will. What is SSL? I'm going to use SSL instead of reading out the full name every time just to keep it simple. What does SSL offer the competitive golfer?
Okay, the whole the program we are running, it's a sports science lab. So basically our whole methodology involves, it's kind of run in a 4-part. We analyze, we apply, we optimize, and repeat. So what does that mean is any athlete walks into our door, first we do very thorough assessment on them. to find out what is their exactly biomechanical faults, what they are missing. Is there any length tension issue? Is it some weakness issue? Is it some lack of joint awareness or proprioception, or any problem with the vision and eye coordination and all that? Depending on what we find on the assessment, we give them a proper program, which could include training with the personal trainer, athletic trainer, strength conditioning coach, as well as the chiropractor, physical therapy if they need any rehab. We train them, and then we repeat, and then we check them again to see what improvement we have seen it on base of the first assessment to the last assessment. So it's kind of in a nutshell, we try to find any kind of human deficit possible. It could be a micro or macro level, and whatever we can do to fix this, we try to help them the best way we can, and if not, then we suggest them the right thing to do or a right professional to go to get that fixed. But the good thing about it is we have the rehab component, so in case if somebody is hurting, then we take care of that too. Plus we have good recovery program, so that comes handy, and we have excellent staff which helps to drive the whole process of our program. So just to say that when it comes to the golfer, same thing applies. So when the golfer walks into our place, what we do is we do a very detailed assessment, which include checking their water content in the body, their muscle mass, their posture, their golf swing analysis, which will break down in the pattern. So if you have time, I'll go through all the detail in there. We check their leg tension, because any kind of tightness in, suppose, the back of the leg, hamstring muscle or lower back muscle, that will affect your golf swing. We check how their body is moving, how their weight bearing changing from front foot to the back foot. We change the ground reaction force with them. And because golf is a game of stability and the coordination, that's one thing we emphasize more on. So we check how stable their spine is and compared to the legs and the feet and all that. So we assess them in the regular form as well as during the golf swing as well. And we check the hand-eye coordination to see how quickly they are reacting to the stimuli and what is their perception, so they know how far to hit and all that. And also we analyze their strength and the endurance of it too. And because the golf, it looks easy game, but the research shows that in a way it's more dangerous than rugby, hockey, and other team sports, because the rate of injury in golfing is 1.8 per 1,000 person versus 1.5 per 1,000 person in the other, like rugby and hockey games. So it looks pretty easy game, but the injury rate is pretty high. So so and once we do all the analysis, we write the detailed report to guide them what exactly they're missing. Is it a bad posture? Is they're not stable? Again, we don't go into too much detail about their in the golf swing, so we leave that to the pro. I say, all right, I'm not going to change your technique or anything. I'll just tell you what your faults are, and what we do is we usually talk to the pro golf or their coach or whoever they are, and we tell them that this is what our findings are, and that might put them at higher risk of injury, or maybe that's the reason they are not getting where they need to go. So technique is their part. What we do is we do the biomechanical part of it, and then train them. So training is a very important part of our methodology as well. If we find something, we make sure we get the flexibility back, their endurance back, their hand-eye coordination, their reaction time, and all that. And I want to again, the golf injury is pretty high. So the injury rate is pretty high. So we also treat them by using our modalities, manual therapy techniques, chiropractor, physical therapy, whatever we need to.
Right. Let me ask you, Paul, before I bring you on to talk a little bit about what it is that you're doing. You know, if I understand, Rushy, what you're saying is you're not there to diagnose or to retrain the golfer in their technique with their golf swing. What you're there to do is to, through your assessment program, if you will, is to isolate some of the potential problems that they may be having currently or could potentially have down the road if they don't change certain factors in their day-to-day life, if you will. What it could be some things as simple as nutrition, it could be proper physical exercise and so forth, or maybe they haven't properly addressed a past injury, and that injury is affecting them from getting their best golf game. So really what you're doing is you're finding out through your analysis, if you will, some of the key areas that potentially could be giving them difficulties out in the golf course, and then helping them by relaying that information to whatever teaching professional or coach that they may be working with, as you said, to let them then say, okay, this is maybe why, Mr. Smith is not able to do this, or could also help the coach or teach professional say, okay, we can't do this because, again, Mr. Smith has got some areas over here that could potentially cause problems down the road. So we need to modify his teaching or coaching sessions a little bit differently. Is that pretty much, did I get it right?
Absolutely. It's a nutshell. This is what exactly we do.
Very good. I'm glad I was listening. Very good. Paul, I want to bring you in. Yeah, I want to bring you in, and then, Roshi, I'm going to come back to you in a minute. But, Paul, I want to get you in because obviously, you're a strength and conditioning coach. So now that we've isolated, Dr. Roshi has isolated some of the key areas that, and if correct me if I'm wrong, but I want you to sort of lay out, if you will, a little bit about what your function at NY Sports Science Lab is. What specifically do you do, and when do you sort of fit in what piece of the puzzle do you fit into in your position?
Yeah, absolutely. So when an athlete comes to us, that whole assessment process that we go through is a combination of the athlete working with one of our PTs like Rushi, and then also going with one of our performance experts like myself. So that whole assessment process is a combination of, it would be like Rushi and then me finishing it. So we're all involved in that assessment process, so we know that when we get all those results, we've had eyes on as well. So it's not just listening to someone else's word. It's, okay, we have all these results. I saw them go through it as well, and now I know after we have all the results, now they have to go train. Depending on the type of athlete, I may get them. So if someone comes to us and they have a prior injury or they're dealing with a lot of pain, they'll start with physical therapy to first get them out of pain. Frequently, it'll be half and half. So maybe it's, they'll spend the first half with Rushi and then the second half with our AT, Sean. And then after they get out of pain and transition out of physical therapy, if they get out of pain now, it's like, all right, if we're training for performance, that's when I come in as a strength and conditioning professional. So my main role is working with primarily healthy athletes, trying to maximize performance, prevent injuries, kind of prevent them from getting to Rushi. And then if someone does have pain or an injury, they go down, they see him, and then kind of come back to me either for therapeutic exercise or for performance training.
Right. Well, and that's what I imagine your function. Obviously, it's sort of a multi-step process, if you will. Is obviously if you've got people that have already got some injury or some ailments, if you will, physical ailments, you want to address those right away. You want to heal them, if you will, or get them back into a better wellness. And then obviously, Paul, you want to step in at that point to help them further prevent that from happening again, or reduce the risk greatly, but also want them to, through strength exercise and things like that, get them healthy and active again so that they can get out there and enjoy whatever sport they're doing, but obviously in this case, golf. Again, is that pretty much on the button as well?
Yeah, pretty much. And the thing, when it comes to injuries and pain, the area that a lot of people kind of go astray is, say someone comes in with, their knees bothering them. Very often people will, address the issue by like, all right, we're going to try to get the knee better. Let's focus on the knee. When in reality, what our assessment process does and what we're so good at the lab is figuring out what's the cause of that pain in the knee. We know that pain's not the problem. Pain's just a symptom of an existing problem. So it may be something farther up the kinetic chain that's causing that knee injury. So if we look and we say, okay, your knee's bothering you, well, why is that happening? Well, maybe it's lack of core stability. Maybe it's lack of glute strength. It's something that isn't located around the knee at all, or not located around the knee at all. It's somewhere completely different on the body. So the training that we do is going to, especially for the preventative type training, is we're kind of addressing the athlete as a whole, their entire body, how their entire body's functioning, make sure it's all functioning properly. And that's really what our assessment, being so thorough, allows us to do really, really well.
Yeah, and Rushi, just to go back to what you were talking about for a second, obviously that initial assessment is critical. And, I've had another guest recently that is a chiropractor, and she talked a little bit about, she specialized in the golf industry, and, she talked about obviously preventative maintenance and things like that. But obviously a key thing that you want to be able to do is get that potential athlete in your grasp, if you will, and find out what are some of the issues that they're dealing with or potentially could deal with based on their so tell me a little bit, again, you talked about what you do physically, but how long does the process take for the assessment? Typically, how long does the process take, and is this something that you recommend, regardless, again, what sport, but again, we're talking about golf here tonight, is this something that you recommend that maybe they do these assessments on a somewhat of a regular basis, like maybe annually every year at the beginning of the season before they get out there and start swinging the club?
Absolutely. That is very highly recommended, because when we started putting this all program a few years back, we did a lot of randomized trials on various schools and colleges, and we just went there. We took the whole football team one time, one of the college and locally. It was, and then we did the other athlete as well. We had at least 80 athletes, if I remember correctly. And after doing the whole assessment, we just give them a report that at least 40 of the 80 athletes were pretty high risk, not high, the moderate, but there were 20 of them were very high risk of injuring. We give them some body parts. Suppose one athlete was high risk of injuring the ACL, one was the hip, and there was a preseason. Their season started, and I kid you not, within month time, out of those 40 people we put it in the moderate risk, I saw in physical therapy practice at least 25 of those. And it's very close to what we predicted, that this is what you're going to hurt if you don't take care of it. A lot of soccer athletes, we saw baseball player, we saw football player. So that tells you that doing the proper, and in the PT world, that's what they say, the assessment is half of your treatment. Literally, you have to spend more time in assessment than treating any athlete or even the regular average person. More you know about the body and the mechanics, more you can predict it and prevent it at the same time in there. Again, you cannot prevent everything, but at least you can tell them that some areas of higher risk are, and then you can work towards it. So when you reassess them, then you see the difference that, okay, your muscles were not firing in your hip areas, which was affecting your golf pattern, and you were using your back more, so your back was hurting. And now all of a sudden I put the surface EMG, which is one of the tools we have it, and we see the muscle firing in the hip is improved, and all of a sudden the back pain goes away. So that tells that it's not any kind of fake news. It is very fact science, and the data don't lie. Visually, I can make anything up by assessing any patient or any athlete that, oh, you have this fault and that fault. But when we go through all the machine learning and assessing it with very precise data and visual on top of it, then the combined results we get, that's pretty accurate, very much in predicting injuries as well as preventing. So saying that, it will be definitely a good idea for any athlete. We recommend them to preseason, postseason, come and get it assessed. Our assessment process is almost 2 hours long. It's not quick 10, 15 minutes assessment. And they get the detailed report, so they know exactly what they are missing in very layman term, as well as if the pros wants to know, then we give detailed report about the medical term and jargons and biomechanical physics terms, so they know what they are looking at as well. It's definitely recommended to do every year, just like you go for cleaning and for your dentist and you go for your physical.
Right.
This is something is coming in the picture nowadays with all those people getting more into sports and other stuff. It's kind of your physical and it's combination of your eyes, your body mechanics, your biomechanics, your injury risk, and all that. So it should be actually we had in our mind as a team that we should present this to more and more healthcare professional and the insurance company even down the road, so they make it as a part of routine checkup. So they don't have to go through all the injury and all that. That's why they can save money down the road too. So that's our long-term goal, to put it for the insurance too. So that way it's covered just like the annual checkup. And there's nothing to lose. You get the most binocular vision on your own body, that what you're missing. Even if you're not an athlete, there are a lot of things we do. We do the FMS and SFMA, which is the Selective Functional Movement Assessment. And you don't have to be an athlete. You can come in and just say, I don't have pain. Can you assess me if something is missing? Then I can still find something that, okay, the neck is stiff, and this is your job. There are chances that down the road, if you don't take care of it, you might end up hurting there or something, so you can still predict it.
If I could
Very
jump in
good.
for 1 second here.
Yeah, sure, Paul. Yep.
In terms of the frequency of how frequently we actually typically do assess people that come to us, it's pretty much like on a monthly basis. I liken the athletic assessment that we have to similar to that, like of a blood test. So if someone's, say someone's unhealthy, they get their checkup, they get a blood test, and it shows all their markers are really poor. So they go on a diet to get healthy. Well, that blood test is just a snapshot in time. It's that one blood test that you took on that one day. Now you change your diet up, and you start to feel better. Well, you don't know how much better you got unless you get another blood test, because that one that you took a month ago is no longer accurate. We made some changes. Now our diet is a little bit different. And then over time, in order to make sure that the dietary changes you're making are actually taking hold and working, you would continue to get tested over the course of time to track your progress. The same is true for training. We'll assess somebody when they come to us. So say a golfer comes to the lab, we do the global assessment. You say, okay, here are all the areas that we need to improve. Then we're going to train them. We're going to reassess them about a month later to see, okay, are we going in the right direction? Are there any other problems that we can address? Kind of that one assessment we had a month ago was a snapshot in time, but now your body isn't the same as it was a month ago because we've been moving, we've been training. So it's important to do it pretty regularly, because we're not going to be the same for 6 months at a time, especially if we're moving, especially during the golf season when you're going out and playing a lot. There's going to be a lot of potentially overuse type things that will accumulate over the season. So before and after a season would be great, but doing it even more frequently than that, assuming you're training and keeping up with the training, would be beneficial.
Right, and yeah, obviously, especially if you're a high competitor, again, whether it's golf or any sport or activity, you obviously want to be assessed more often. That definitely makes a lot of sense. Paul, I want to ask you a couple of things based on something you just touched on, and then just sort of again on that assessment. Obviously, you handle more of the strength and conditioning function, if you will. Now, in addition to the assessment that Rushi does, do you also, in preparation for setting up some sort of a program for that particular athlete, do you do kind of your own assessment to find out what their physical limitations might be, and to make sure that you're not training somebody too much that maybe quite can't handle it, or do you get enough information from the initial assessment to help formulate that that session or group of sessions?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, so we get obviously a ton of data from the initial assessment, so we can see the glaring areas of, all right, here's what we need to improve. Like you're saying, it's okay, so how do we improve it? Because we don't know, maybe, like, if we're going to, do a squat with someone. Well, maybe it's not a barbell back squat, maybe it's not a barbell front squat, maybe it's a goblet squat that's going to work for that particular person. We can't test everything in the world in 2 hours. That was just, it's just not feasible. So really, whenever we're training, every day is a mini assessment in and of itself. So we say, okay, we have this goal this area that we need to address. All right, well, how are we going to do it? That's what we're going to break down this program. And then as we're training, we're going to figure out, okay, maybe this exercise isn't working for this person. We're going to have to modify to something else. Or as we see a move, maybe there's something that didn't show up in the assessment. Okay, now we have to target that area or modify it. So, yeah, training is a constant assessment process. No exercise is perfect for everybody.
Right.
There's not one variation of an exercise that's going to be perfect for everybody. So while we find a lot of the areas that we're going to need to improve and, say we find imbalances in the body, of course, as we go through training, we're going to have to assess periodically or constantly to make sure that what we're doing is going to be the best. Because if I know, okay, this person really could use some unilateral leg exercises, so we're going to lunge with this person. And then when they're lunging, we realize, this person doesn't have the balance to do a walking lunge. Maybe that's not the right exercise. Maybe we're going to do a support and split squat instead for this person. Same effect. We're doing unilateral lower body exercises, but one variation was going to be unsafe, and the other one's going to be a lot more beneficial for this particular person.
Right, and obviously there's a little bit of trial and error, like you said. I mean, you're going to start with certain exercises that you feel fit the mold, if you will, for that particular individual, but there might be some modification as you go along based on their abilities and based on some of the challenges that you may be faced with. Paul, I want to also ask you very quickly, and then we're going to move on, but because you touched on a little bit about nutrition, do you work with, or do you have somebody on board in the lab that handles nutrition side or that sort of advice, or do you work with somebody outside of your group that can assist in obviously, because nutrition is a big factor as well to be athletic. You can't just be eating chili dogs and drinking beer around the golf course. You've got to have some good nutrition as well if you want to be athletic. So do you guys have somebody in-house that you work with, or do you have somebody outside that you refer people to?
Yeah, so in-house there's two people primarily that really do a lot of the nutrition stuff. Number one is our owner, Dr. Piazza. He has his own nutrition reform, so that's more for it's less for athletes just looking for ideal nutrition practices, and more for people who are to reform. So people who need lifestyle changes to really help lose a lot of body weight and kind of become healthier overall. That's more of who he works with. And then another one of our strength and conditioning coaches, Jeffrey Duarte. He's our sports nutritionist on staff. So he's not a registered dietitian or anything, but he can give recommendations of good habits, good practices. He's not writing like meal plans or anything for anybody. We don't have anyone on, he'll give information of tips, different habits that you should be employing, kind of make recommendations. But that's the extent of the nutrition that we do, is more of just some general guidelines and some tips to help optimize what you're eating and when you're eating it.
Right, and obviously if they want to, get further information on that, they can certainly, reach out to somebody that either, a nutritionist or their own doctor or something like that. I was just curious because you had mentioned about that, and I was just wondering if you guys sort of have somebody on board. And obviously you can give some general information, but again, if they want to pursue a little bit further, they can get other avenues as well. All right, guys. Well, I want to move on to, obviously, I know one of the reasons that you guys are here tonight, you're very excited. NY Sports Science Lab is sort of teamed and partnered up with Zone Sports Academy. Rushi, I'm going to start with you, and then Paul, by all means, join in as well. Tell us a little bit about this new venture.
Actually, Paul works at the Zone Academy, so I think he'll be the right person to answer that.
Okay. All right.
So he goes there too,
all right, Paul,
and trains athletes there. So.
Yeah,
okay.
So this is
well,
one of
Paul,
our so Zoned is one of our first satellite locations. It's a existing baseball facility located in Bridgewater, New Jersey. We saw they did awesome work over there, and it was an opportunity for us to get out to reach more athletes. We're doing group training there. For the most part, we're working with predominantly baseball, softball athletes for now. Hopefully expanding out to different sports in the future. But the setting's a little bit different, since at the lab, everyone that we train is one-on-one. There's one of our limitations to the sports science lab is our space constraints. So everyone, which is great for the athlete because you're getting one-on-one training, but for us, that limits the number of people we can reach. At Zone, there's a lot more space. It's big turf, batting cages, so we have more space and we can handle more athletes at once. So the training we're doing over there is group training for both, our physical performance training, but also the brain training stuff that we do as well. So we're getting through month 3 over there right now. So it's been new, it's been exciting, it's been fun. It's a little different setting, and for me, I come from predominantly a baseball background, so I'm kind of in my glory over there right now.
Right. Well said. And I like the fact that that you're delving into other areas and things like that as well. And I liked also the fact that it's not just about the physical side, but you're doing brain training. Tell me a little bit about that. I know that that's not necessarily your area of specialty, if you will, but talk about some of the things and so just people get an idea of what you're talking about when you're saying brain training.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple different technologies that we use at the lab that will train different sensory motor areas predominantly. And as we go through that, we try to hit on the mental game as best we can. Depending on the sport that we're doing, it'll look a little bit differently for each individual. So, for example, at Zone, Matt Diorio is another one of the performance experts who's there with me, and he's running the brain training program. So he has our synaptic sensory motor station, our synaptic strobe goggles, our fit lights, and some of the other technologies that we have. And he can help the athletes train things like eye-hand coordination, decision-making, reaction time, in a setting that's a little bit different than playing their sport. So we kind of get them out of their comfort zone, challenge them in ways. It's kind of hard to describe without actually seeing it in person.
Right.
But it's depending on the athlete's needs for their sport. So we'll take golf for an example. The biggest thing that we want in golf is being able to repeat our swing, right? So to have, this, if we know what our swing is supposed to be, we want to be able to do it over and over again because any small deviation is going to yield, very large differences in outcomes. So in that case, we would use things like our interactive metronome and possibly our strobe goggles. So the interactive metronome is something we can use to improve our rhythm and timing, and our strobe goggles are something we can use to help improve things like proprioception. So we could integrate those technologies into the training program to make it so that our internal rhythm and timing is better, so that as we go through our swing, we kind of have a better feel for it and improve our proprioception with the goggles, so that we have basically a better feel of what we're doing. That's a pretty simple explanation of what it is. It's really fun when we have people try it out for the first time and they can get their hands on the equipment and see, okay, I see what this does, and accompany it with an explanation and show them, like, okay, here's really the second level benefit that we can get in addition to things like eye-hand coordination or rhythm or decision-making. We can really talk about our mentality as we're going through it. If we're gonna challenge you, so hopefully there's going to be some failure in there. How are we dealing with failure? Are we bouncing back quickly? Is it taking us out of it for a long time? Not that we're sports psychologists or anything, but we're trying to basically kind of bridge the gap, so to speak, where we can focus, okay, here's how we're going to improve our hand coordination, but here's how we're going to improve our approach to a competitive and challenging event.
Well, and you raise a very interesting, well said. You raise a very interesting point as well, Paul, too, that again, regardless of what sport we're talking about, but, obviously here in golf, it's not just a physical part of the game. A lot of people make mistakes, when they come to see their local professional, and they're, always focused on, hitting the ball, perfect and hitting it straight and long and far and all that kind of stuff. But they're not really learning and understanding how to play, and that's where the mental side of the game. I mean, if you listen to some of the greats of the game, like Jack Nicklaus, really 90% of it is a mental game. And if you're not, sort of training that aspect or training that part of your body, and you're just, constantly working on hitting balls on the driving range, you might be you become a great ball striker, but you're not necessarily going to be a great player or golf player, if you will, at that particular time, because you're spending so much time on the physical part of your game. So obviously this is something that you guys have recognized, and that's why, and again, you're offering it to a multitude of sports, but this is why you're really focusing on that in your training, is not just the physical side, but also the mental side, correct?
100%. And thinking about it this way, when you're golfing, how long would you be out on the course for, 3-4 hours or so if you're playing 18?
Right.
And then what length of time are you spending actually physically swinging a golf club? Probably a total of maybe like a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes maybe. If you think like each swing takes about, 1 to 2 seconds, and you're shooting maybe 190 to 100 shots in a day, you're looking at a minute and a half roughly of actual physical time that you're spending. So you have, 3 hours, 58 minutes, and 30 seconds where you're not actually striking the ball. There's a lot that can go wrong in our brain over the course of that time. if we're not prepared for it. So, yeah, 100%. It's, when you start to think about the amount of time that you spend not hitting a ball versus hitting a ball, it really puts into perspective that this is an area that obviously we need to be able to strike a ball. If you can't strike a ball, you can't play golf. But this is it's a huge piece of it of, can I stay focused? Can I stay positive? Am I getting down? Is one shot leading into the next? These are things that, like you're saying, just because you're a good ball striker doesn't make you a good golfer.
Right, and we've seen that multiple times throughout a variety of tours, whether it be the men's or the women's tour, where somebody's just not playing their best physically, but they still shoot a great round, or they actually even end up winning. In fact, we had a young lady from the Symetra Tour that was on, I think it was just this past Tuesday, on my other broadcast, and she talked about how last season she had multiple rounds where she just wasn't hitting it that well, but she ultimately still did well in many of the tournaments because mentally, she was very focused. So obviously, it's sort of a balancing act. And again, some of the best players in the world weren't necessarily the best ball strikers. They were just great at thinking of themselves around the golf course. And you raise a very good point, Paul, is, literally over the average round of a golf game, you might be actually hitting the golf ball a total of a couple of minutes, whereas you're walking around or even taking a cart for 3.5, 4 hours. That's a lot of time on your hands, and it's not always easy if you're played a couple of bad holes and now you've got the rest of the round to complete and you're kind of in a funk. So even though you're hitting the ball well, you're still not maybe necessarily playing well. So I like the fact that you guys are covering a broad spectrum of things at your company there. Rushi, I want to come back to you. I want to come back to you a little bit on this. Now, obviously, you guys have been doing this for a little while, and you're expanding and doing things. I know because I've been on your website a few times, since I've had you on before and that. And obviously, I know primarily you are doing a lot of work with some younger athletes and professional athletes and things like that. But you're also making this available to some older folks as well that maybe still want to get out there and play. What would you say? Because obviously we got our baby boomers out there that are getting close to retirement age here, and they want to go out and play golf and do other activities and that. Obviously, you've got the assessments and that, but what about people that have maybe been sort of nursing an injury for a long, long time? What's the best thing for them? What should they be doing now in order to rectify that?
See, the chances of injury, obviously, if your body is not in optimum shape, or if your flexibility is not good, or endurance is not good, or vision changes with age too, so the chances of injury, it gets higher. In golf,
right.
Usually 7 to 17 years old and greater than 55 years old sustain more golf injury than middle age, 18 to 54. So it is significantly higher risk of hurting yourself in golf at 55 and up, which is kind of, if you see, it's common age to a lot of people once they go near retirement age and they have a lot of time in their hand. That's where they start picking the golf club and start going out. So for you to perform well and prevent any injury, your body, your mind, your eyes, everything, and your diet, everything has to be in the optimum shape. The very common area of injuries in immature golfers is the lower back, and in mature and like pros is more like a wrist is common areas. So what we actually, even though you are average Joe, you just started golf, 75, 60 years of age, and you're just coming in for assessment, we want to put a lot of emphasis on their body composition, their weight. If they have any kind of physical issues like arthritis is most common things that set up on people above 50. So there are a lot of variation you can do in the golf to change some angles. So a lot of time I recommend people having the knee replaced for the older population, or having bad knee arthritis and it cannot hold their stance in proper way, then I tell them to change some of the angles. So you keep still your knee flexed while doing the swing, so your center of gravity is lower, so it gives you more stability part. But at the same time, if that is bothering, then sometimes we suggest them using proper orthotics or using the knee brace or changing the angle of the foot. It might change some of the trajectory of where the ball is going, but then you get used to changing your whole style to prevent further injury in your knee. Again, most common is the hip injuries as well. So a lot of people I see here, the golfer, and they have a lot of hip stiffness. And having lack of rotation in the hip is not only going to affect how far the ball is going to go, but also they're going to put them at higher risk of hurting their back and the knee, also the foot. Just because there is not enough rotation in the hip, they're going to throw the other joint off and just close the biomechanical chain. So in that cases, I tell them to keep their feet pointing forward a bit instead of keeping it parallel to each other while you're hitting it. So that kind of reduces the amount of tension, and that also gives them more arc of motion in the hip joint. So there, some of the golf swing might change, but at the same time, they will save their other body parts. So, giving them a right. So assessment, again, is the cue of everything, because more I know about them, what medical history they had, or how good they are in shape, or if they have any issue with the vision. Sometimes one of the golfer, I just suggested to start wearing glasses, get your eye exam, because he was not able to see on the screen when we were doing the visual eye-hand coordination and depth perception assessment. He was going all over the screen. So we knew that he's not going to be able to play golf regardless how much strong he is or how flexible he is if his eyes is not working well. I mean, the vision is not good. So assessing them and finding them the solution is the key for older age population golfer. And injury prevention is number one thing we emphasis on this population. Just because their body is more fragile at that age. And again, regardless, you can be in best shape ever, but the body is going to do, biology is going to do its work. There are certain things that's certain it's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. I actually just hit the 55 mark here a couple of weeks ago, so I know exactly what you're talking about, Rushi. Yeah, I'm in that. Unfortunately, I'm on the upside of that category now, so it is what it is. Paul, let me just ask you this, and as we get close to wrapping up our time, obviously you want to best prepare somebody for the season coming out now. So maybe just to give us a short idea, they've come in, they've taken the assessment, you've done what I typically, and obviously everybody's different, but what typically when it comes to the golfers, and again, you can pick whatever age group you want, at the beginning of the season, do you try to get them to do in order to prepare for a new season?
So, I mean, yeah, this will be a pretty general answer because obviously it'll change depending on the person. But some of the fundamental things that we'll see in golf will be, one, our core musculature. So can we stabilize the core? Can we be strong through anti-rotation, so like resisting rotation? And can we rotate really aggressively? So one, having the requisite strength to allow full rotation, but also to, teach what that actually means. So how our hips are supposed to be functioning relative to our shoulders, and being able to do that not only, correctly, but safely, and then hopefully optimally at really high speed. In addition to that, it's going to be a lot of, general strength. So we want to make sure, we have strong glutes, strong muscles around the hips. So making sure that our ab and adductors are both strong. So like the thing I call it just the side butt and the inner thigh. Those muscles are going to be really important for transferring force through rotation. And then a lot of, upper back mobility. So like being able to thoracically rotate and strength through the shoulders. So, I mean, there's going to be general fitness like any sport. I mean, everyone's going to be going through a lot of, simple strength of being able to have, the general fitness up and general movement capacity. But for golf, one of our main focuses will definitely be on, rotating and resisting rotation as well.
Yeah, and also something, too, that I think a lot of people don't realize, and I say this, from the golf professional side,
as we age and get older, even though, we can still keep pretty strong, Rushi, as you mentioned, biologically our bodies are changing. One of the things that I think that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to the equipment, and I'm talking about the golf equipment, that the irons that you might have swung when you were 20, you don't need necessarily to be swinging when you're, 55 or even 60 years old, because the shafts tend to be a little bit firmer or stiffer. They tend to be a little bit heavier. So sometimes an equipment change, and through the information, I know you don't get involved in that specific side of it, guys, but the information that you're giving them can greatly help the golf coach or teach professional say, hey, look, maybe we need to look at, updating your equipment to match your physical abilities now as well. And that would be something that they could get from the information you're providing, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. We work a lot with, especially with people who come to us like just for an assessment too. We'll usually be relaying that information to either another strength and conditioning coach, or in this case, it'd be a golf coach, just that you have all the information as well. As long as the athlete's okay with sharing it, it's not like we're hoarding it to ourselves. Sure. If an athlete, hey, I want to assess and I want my coach to know all this information, and then he can make any adjustments based on what we find, we'll absolutely send that over.
Yeah, and see, that's very valuable information to have for a lot of golfers. Again, regardless of age, if they're working with a coach or a teach professional, that's valuable information for the teach professional to have, because again, there's key information that they're going to derive from that, and it can also explain. A lot of times if they've been taking lessons for, let's say for the last year or so, and there's been issues and things, that individual, that teacher professional, is not trained or qualified in most cases. Now, obviously, there are some situations where there's a crossover, but they're not trained in what you guys are trained in to do. They're there to show them how to, handle the fundamentals and the mechanics of the golf swing, but they're not there to handle the physical side as far as conditioning and strength training and things like that. So this is where these assessments and working together as a team really can help the athlete get the most out of their golf game, or again, whatever sport they may be involved with. So, well, guys, it's been a very interesting. Any final thoughts or any comments that either one of you want to make, and then Rushi, I'll give you an opportunity if you want to direct the listeners or Paul, whichever, where they can go to get more information about what you guys have to offer. Any final thoughts, either one?
Absolutely. Paul, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think we pretty much ran the gamut. I think what you were saying at the end was perfect, of, the synergy between what we do and what the sport coaches do. So in this case, the golf professional, where you're given lessons, it's really, we try to provide at the lab everything that an athlete will need outside of their actual sport-specific training. So they're not going to be coming in and hitting golf balls and working on their chip, working on their short game. With us, we'll try to do everything else that can prepare their body to best handle the demands of golf in this case, or for any athlete in any sport. We're not teaching some lineman how to block, but we'll get him strong, give him the requisite abilities for his body to be able to implement that properly in practice. So we love when we can communicate with the actual sport coaches, because it only enhances the athlete's experience. This way we know maybe if you say, an athlete comes from, and a golf coach says, hey, this is where we're really struggling in their swing, that's even more information that we can, kind of target the assessment and really look at as we're going through the training with somebody. So 100%, I totally agree with what you're saying there.
Well, and also, too, just one final comment I want to make about that. The other thing, too, that it does is you guys are able to develop a program, again, based on the assessment and based on the individual's needs. But the sport, I mean, obviously you're going to train differently if you want to become a good golfer as opposed to, playing baseball or football. Now, obviously there are certain elements in baseball and or hockey or whatever that follow suit, transitioning weight and things like that. But obviously the strength and conditioning training that, a baseball or football athlete may have is going to be different again from maybe what a golfer is going to do, because they're using maybe different muscles traditionally, but also and that's something too that I think that having those assessments and that can really help shed some light for the coaches as well. All right, guys. Well, again, I want to thank both of you for joining me tonight. It's been very interesting, and I'll give you either one, again, whoever wants to, a moment to just share how the folks can, if they want to reach out and get more information, but also if they're interested in maybe both the athlete and even the coaches out there, if they want to get in touch with you to see what they can, you guys can put together. So go ahead.
Yeah, so we are running this program for all the sports, and a very individualized program. Is nothing generalized. We have our staff is specialized in various things. So our Paul is excellent in baseball. We have Guy excellent in soccer. I have a cricket and volleyball background. I have Guy specialized in golfing, and I'm also specialized in that. So we cover more or less with our staffing whatever the needs are, and our assessment is very thorough and detailed, and it breaks down from macro to micro perspective. That you will not miss anything in terms of any kind of linkage which could potentially improve your game or make you a higher injury risk type person. So more and more you know about your own body, it'll help you to find what exactly you are and what you can prevent and apply in your routine life, whether you're pro or you are athlete or you are even non-athlete. It'll help you in any way. So you can check out the website, and you can also follow us on Instagram, which you can exactly see what we are doing and how we are working. We have very good resources and information. Bunch of videos are there, all the program where we are running, and methodology and the machineries we use. Everything is there on Instagram, Facebook, as well as on our website. So you can check that out. It's the website is called www.nysportsciencelab.com, and you can just Google New York Sports Science Lab and you will see it there. Also follow us on Instagram. You'll get tons of video information. You exactly know how we are working and how the things are taken care of here.
Yeah, our Instagram handle is at NY Sports Science Lab, and Twitter we're at NY_SSL.
Perfect. Well, guys, again, I want to thank both of you for joining me this evening. It's been an interesting and enlightening discussion, and I always try to, with my program, always try to have guests on that it's great to talk about the golf swing and talk about how we can fix the slice and the hook and all those wonderful things, but there's other parts of the puzzle as well that go hand in hand, and so it's been very interesting discussion, and congratulations on transitioning into different areas and expanding and helping all of those athletes out there become better and get more enjoyment out of whatever sport they are involved with. So keep up the great work, and loved having you. Yeah, loved having you guys on, and you're welcome to come back anytime you have more things to share with us. We can continue on the conversation. But Paul and Rushi, thank you very much for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live.
Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully all the listeners enjoyed.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Yeah. Have a great evening. All right. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye. All right. That was my special guest, Dr. Rushi Shalawala and Paul Searles, both from the NY Sports Science Lab. And again, you can go to nysportsciencelab.com is their principal website, and you can get in touch with them there, the various different members of their staff, and also all of their social media links there as well, particularly their Instagram account as well. You want to follow them there and see some great videos and get a better visual, of course. Obviously, we can't do that here on this program because it's audio, but give you a better idea of some of the things that they offer at their program. And again, I want to thank Clint Wright, Chuck Evans, and Dr. Ellison Kurt for joining me earlier on the Coach's Corner panel. Had a great discussion tonight. For those of you just tuning in towards the end of the broadcast, if you go to blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live, in a few moments, the on-demand section, the recorded version will be available. So if you missed most of tonight's broadcast and you're tuning in late, if you go there and if you hang on tight, I'm going to be doing the closing credits here in just a minute, and you can find out some other great ways that you can tune in as well. On that note, I will see you next Tuesday on the Women of Golf show, my other broadcast from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern, here on the blogtalkradio.com network with my good friend and co-host, LPGA professional Cindy Miller. So hope you join me this Tuesday, and then I'll be followed next Thursday with another great Coach's Corner panel and another great interview guest here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody and have a great weekend.
Thanks for listening to this evening's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. Remember to tune in each week at blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live. If you can't join us live, check out the on-demand section for previously aired broadcasts, or listen on any of the following social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course, Spotify. To get updates on future shows and upcoming guests, be sure to visit the show's Facebook page, Golf Talk Live Blog. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ted and Buck CEO. Remember to join me live each week for another great broadcast of Golf Talk Live. See you next time. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.